And we want to know about this. Why is the cryptocurrency exchange Binance? So the cryptocurrency exchange Binance has seized all Palestinian assets at Israel's request. That was the tweet in the nest. It got millions upon millions of views. There was a campaign to boycott Binance. Ben reached out last night in the space and said that actually the story is slightly different to the way we understand it. He then did put me in touch with some Binance people. I'll tell you about what happened there, but I was not convinced with their claims. And they were just, what can I say, in the most normalist way I can say, they were weak and they were basically, they did not give any answers whatsoever. So we're going to be talking about that. The claim was, and they said this, they were like, this is their statement, what they said, right? And I was under the impression that some of them were going to come on this space, but obviously they decided not to. But they said, our ambition is to serve users for many years to come, and as a financial institute, we must follow global AML/CTF standards in order to ensure our user safety. In October 2023, October 2023, does everybody know that date? 7th of October, right? We were asked to freeze more than 1,500 user accounts. We review all requests and conduct thorough due diligence and verifications on all requests that come to us. We ended up freezing only 220 accounts in Palestine linked to illicit activity in line with international standards that all financial institutes must follow. This represents less than 0.1% of total registered users there. We are deeply saddened by the events in the Middle East. We wish for a swift and peaceful end to the conflict and the safety of all innocent civilians. If you have any questions, I'm here to do my best to help. So the first thing is, they said 1,500 accounts since October 2023 were banned, of which 220 are Palestinian. They didn't answer the question of whether how many of the others were pro-Palestinian, and 220 out of 1,500 is a lot. I asked them this question. If someone from Binance not joined, can you explain why in 2023 you have frozen 220 out of 1,500 Palestine accounts? How have you determined illicit activity other than, say, Israel or USA telling you they were illicit? I was under the, and then obviously that was the other point about the space. So, I mean, look, this seems like Binance have done, and Binance, and I'm going to let people on here. We've got Stone on here. He's a crypto guy. Got Simon on here. We've got Ben on here. Got many other crypto people on here who are going to give us some information on how it works. My basic understanding is, and I'm going to let these experts speak about it, that Binance is a crypto exchange that people use for wallets, for their crypto wallets that is connected to bank accounts. It's not decentralized, like for example, MetaMask or these others. And therefore, people have to use like Binance or Kraken to be able to, I don't know, link it to their bank account or whatever. That's my basic understanding. It's probably wrong, to be honest. That's why I'm going to pass it over to these guys to explain it. But we've got many crypto guys, yeah. And guys, if you are a crypto guy, do request. We'll bring you up. We want to know the info. So I mean, let me pass it to Simon. Simon, give us all a background of what's going on. I mean, I'm inclined towards this boycott Binance movement at the moment because the Binance people are just not giving us the answer. Simon, do give us, and I appreciate all of the guys who come up. I do believe we invited quite a few of these people. But Simon, go ahead, do explain to us.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much for having me. To be able to combine two of my passions, Bitcoin and Palestine, is going to be a fun experience. I do just want to say, before we get started on this topic, Sister Sarah Wilkinson has been arrested in the UK because the UK does consider anything you say on X Spaces that may be supporting any groups that they, the UK, classify as a terrorist group, whether they are regarded to be terrorists in other countries or other jurisdictions, is irrelevant. So nothing we say on this space should be treated as any type of support or any indication of how to transact financially for anyone that is unlawful in the UK. So with that said, we're just going to discuss the topic with
Simon, can I
Binance.
sorry, just 1 second. I just want to interject because
Go for it.
just to give an update, Sarah Wilkinson was arrested this morning at 7:30, and the update, I think Sulaiman just posted it before the space. She's been released on bail, so she's back home in the comfort of her home. Just for people I know people were very, very concerned. So I'm so sorry, Simon. I just wanted to interject and give that update. But back to you.
Okay, that's great. And that's very important. So everybody, please ensure that you're careful about the things that you say right now, because there is we have to be careful with these things. And never is that more prevalent than when it comes to financial services. So just before I go through a few things at the moment, if you look at what's happening in Gaza right now, the Palestinian Authority runs the Palestinian Monetary Authority, which is the equivalent of the central bank. It works off a similar rails to the Israeli shekel and the Israeli central bank. And at the moment, Israel holds and has frozen about $6 billion of tax money that is due to the Palestinian Authority over the years. At the moment, a lot of currency, as in physical cash within Gaza, is being deteriorated, and some people are not willing to accept it because they're scared that the physical cash and the notes have become so deteriorated that it may not be acceptable. And the Palestinian Monetary Authority is not swapping, or is not able to swap any of those for replacing those notes, just because the infrastructure is down at the moment. And pretty much every bank from Gaza, from my research, and also money exchange in Gaza, has been bombed. And so the infrastructure for transacting within Gaza right now is very, very limited. And because of that, this is also creating a real freeze on trade. We know that a lot of the goods within Gaza are being restricted, and that's creating hyperinflation, which is another form, of executing this genocide. On the first one, you've got just the pure, bombing and killing and massacring. On the second side, you've got starvation and famine. And on the third side, you can file financial weapons of mass destruction, which makes it impossible to trade. So it's a three-tiered attack. When you hear people say, we've got to be the world's worst at genocide. Well, the way you get away with it is you execute it in a covert way. And this is a covert genocide because originally they wanted to do it in a way where it was in plain sight. But because of much of the resistance and exposing against it, they haven't been able to do that. Now, one of the ways in which people can get around these issues, because it is completely lawful for two people that are not engaged in a transaction that involves somebody that is on a terrorist list. If you are transacting with somebody that is on a terrorist list, and that could be an individual person, it could be a company, organization, it could be a not-for-profit, it could be an entire country like North Korea. And so sanctions are not these things where it says, for example, you cannot transact with the Palestine. And then even then, we know that once you get down to the granular detail, so if you were signing up for a Binance account, you'd have to select your country, you'd have to do KYC, you'd have to provide your proof of address. And we know that there's disputed territories. You've got Palestinians that live within Israel, then you've got the occupied West Bank, and then you've got occupied Gaza. And probably when people sign up on Binance, they have to select their country, Palestine. And so even that is a bit of a confusing task, given all of the disputes around these territories that we're all fighting for to end those occupations. Okay. So with that in mind, anybody is allowed to transact with anybody that is not on these lists. And so the main list is called an OFAC list. An OFAC is the American list. And then you also have other very important lists like UK, because sometimes America and UK may have a disagreement around who they classify to be a terrorist or somebody or something that should be sanctioned or an organization. And then there is a third type of list, which is the United Nations. And so the United Nations, and the rule is that if you're on any one of these lists, then you need to be concerned about whether you're able to transact with that party. And this is how, influence is exerted in these types of scenarios. Right. So that creates a kind of a two-tiered system. So if you were sending a cryptocurrency transaction, this can happen in a couple of ways. So Bitcoin gives you the ability to own your own money, which means that you can send it to anybody peer-to-peer, and that's called self-custody. On the other side, we have crypto banks, and crypto banks are where you take what is your Bitcoin that you own and you deposit it at an exchange like Binance. And essentially, you get, rather than you having your Bitcoin, you now have a promise that they will repay you Bitcoin. And then it operates much like a bank, where if you try to spend your Bitcoin from Binance, you need permission from Binance to be able to send it. And as a financial institution, they have to sign up to taking responsibility to anything that happens with your money. So if Binance sent you requested to send that transaction to somebody within Palestine, and then it turned out that they were on a certain list, then the Binance and you would be held responsible for that. And so this creates a very problematic thing where financial institutions have to be held responsible, and their goal, what they have to do by law and by being arrested, they'll be arrested if they don't do it in some cases, which is what happened to CZ, the founder of Binance. You have to file a suspicious activity report if you ever find something suspicious. And so what then happens is there's another control network that happens here. So Sulaiman said in the beginning, what if you want to convert your pounds, your euros, and your dollars into some Bitcoin? Then this is what's known as an on-ramps and off-ramps. So anytime you go from pounds, dollars, euros to Bitcoin, it's an on-ramps. And if you then want to sell your Bitcoin and you would like to deposit the proceeds into your bank account, that's called an off-ramps. And so the off-ramps and on-ramps is where the financial institutions try to control the market. But once you've got Bitcoin, you can either leave it on Binance, in which case you just have a promise for them to repay you, and it's like a bank. But once you withdraw it, you can actually hold it on your own, which gives you complete freedom to transact. So there's, it's an important distinction to understand. So now you can understand. Let's give a little bit of a background on the Binance situation. So last year, it was alleged by the Department of Justice that Binance had open cryptocurrency accounts for various organizations that were on some of these lists, one of which was Hamas. And because they were against what they were licensed and able to do, they had about 1 million or several million users that were from the United States. And so because they were transacting with users in the United States, that meant they were in violation of OFAC, because, if you put a trade together between these two parties, then Hamas may have been trading with a US, a US person, and then you've got to comply with OFAC, and then you've got to be registered, and you've got to file suspicious activity reports, and you've got to do all the stuff within the US system. They the Department of Justice came after Binance last year, and there was a case and a settlement with the SEC, the regulator of securities, the CFTC, the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission, the IRS, the tax authority, and the Department of Justice. And within that settlement, CZ had to go for trial and face up to 18 years. In the end, he got sentenced for 4 months, but he also had to agree to step down. So the original founder, CZ, that had much of the ideology of Binance, went through a coup where he could no longer run his company. He was allowed to keep his shares, but he had to leave the company. He could no longer be a part of the board, and he could no longer influence the direction. Because what they actually did is many of his staff had taken screenshots of signal messages that they sent to each other, and it was proven that CZ from Binance knew that he was opening an account for Hamas and various other organizations as well. The other thing that happened is that Binance had to pay a $4.7 billion fine.
One second, Simon, just for the audience, just break it down a bit. So are you saying, so I didn't know this, are you saying that CZ, one of the reasons why they arrested him or took away his position on the board was because Hamas had a crypto account with Binance?
Yeah, so CZ came from a very crypto ideology. He was very much around an ideology of financial freedom, and he didn't take much of the laws as seriously as he should. And so they executed a coup to take him out of the company. But he knew that based upon signal messages, the allegations, and the court documents, he knew that Hamas had an account with Binance. So he ended up, the company had to pay a $4.7 billion fine. CZ ended up not with 18 months, but 4 months imprisonment. And he just got out a couple of weeks back. He had to personally pay a $150 million fine from his personal funds. And there was an agreement whereby for the next 3 years, that the US government, the Department of Justice, could install their own compliance team into Binance in order to supervise it. And so from this coup, the US Department of Justice became the effective compliance department of Binance. And this was a way of getting access to all of the data and ensuring that they were, complying with all of the US regulations. And then they were able to find out any organization that was using Binance that they didn't necessarily want to use it.
That's crazy. So you're saying the US government, and everybody knows this, like all you crypto guys know that the US government has control over Binance.
Very, very few people know that because I just dig into the court docs because
No, but all these,
they even made a Binance US for a little bit. They made a Binance US specifically for United States
correct,
citizens.
But they allowed 1.5 million US users to go into Binance International, and Binance International is where the coup happened. Binance US, it turned out that they were sharing the same wallets for storing the vast majority of cryptocurrencies. And so the corporate veil between Binance US and Binance International was broken. And so they all became one company, as it were. And the other thing they agreed is that Binance International would no longer work with US investors. They would offboard them, and a new board would step in. So, think of the very tactic of, we know of a coup, you create civil unrest within a country, then you install your own plant board, then you take over the compliance. And so Binance, you could think of it as, like Egypt or Jordan right now, if you want to use an analogy. Right. So that's where we're at. Now, what happened more recently is that
just before that, for the
for
audience, So just to summarize what you're saying, CZ was aware that Hamas and various other pro-Palestinian resistance people had accounts on Binance. Because of that, or a part of reason of that, there was a coup where they basically sent him to prison. They took him and removed him from the board. Then after that, you basically had a scenario where um you also, so that happens, and then you basically have a scenario where the US government, and we know like the US government, CIA, I mean, is controlled by Israel and Mossad as well, so they have complete direct control of it now. And sorry, you go into October the 7th, then what happens?
Yeah, cool. And so
But Simon, really quick,
go for it.
Simon, really quick, just before we continue, but like you're saying like
Mo,
CZ
you're
got
breaking
locked
up.
up directly for that? Oh, could you guys hear me or no?
It was breaking up a bit, but I heard what you said. I heard your question.
Oh,
Go.
let me get. Okay. So basically, Simon, you're saying like it was because of what CZ did with Hamas that was him in jail? Because I recall like it was for like trading purposes. They had like bid and asks or something like that, or I think it was also because Russia was involved or something.
No, he wasn't done for market manipulation. Those are all different allegations. It was mainly done for violation of anti-money laundering laws and allowing US users to use Binance International without having a license in the US. So those were the main two allegations from memory. And then a bunch of other allegations tried to come up, like the BNB token is an illegal security, which ended up being dropped, and various other things. I didn't hear a Russia connection. The main issue was they didn't have a robust AML program. They were allowing organizations that were banned by the OFAC sanctions list to trade with US users, and they had signal messages where he willingly allowed Hamas and various other groups to open accounts on Binance. Those were the main things from memory.
And guys, by the way, if you are from the crypto industry and you disagree with what Simon says or anyone on the stage, then request and I'll bring you up, because I'm a novice in this. I'm just learning myself. So do request. But go ahead, Simon. Continue with your with what happened from October.
Okay, so I want to make this really clear. I did cover the point earlier. You can own your own Bitcoin or your own crypto, but if you want to take your fiat currency and buy some Bitcoin or crypto, you have to go to a company like Binance, and then you deposit your dollars or your pounds, and then you convert it to Bitcoin. And what a lot of people do, which is a classic mistake, is they use Binance as a wallet to store their Bitcoin, which is you're meant to withdraw it and then store it on your own. But some people, it's a bit of an educational experience. So if everyone in Palestine didn't have their Bitcoin or their crypto on Binance, then they have the complete ability to hold it on their own wallet, which is where you get the true freedom. Because as soon as it is held within a financial institution, you are subject to all of the laws and regulations, punishable by a prison sentence and massive multi-billion-dollar fines. So you have no choice in that matter once you're there. Okay,
And that
so
and that
that's
includes any of the exchanges, right? Like for example,
any
Binance,
exchange.
Kraken, all of them, right?
Yeah. And full disclosure, I'm a shareholder in many of these different companies, so just want to put that out there as well. Right, so that's
Oh my God, Simon, are you part of the problem?
well, I thought I was supporting the industry. I was really early shareholders. I'm not a shareholder in Binance. I
You're
just want
good
to
then. You're
be.
good. You're good.
Yeah, no, the reason is I want to say that is because you may accuse me of saying bad things about Binance because I'm a shareholder in Kraken and Coinbase and all these other companies. So I just want to disclose all my interests so everyone can just decide whether they want to take my views as bias and just be fully transparent, really. Okay.
So far, you're right about everything, though. Like I remember this story exactly on the dime. Now that you mentioned that part of what they were accusing him of, So yeah, so far so good. I think I agree with everything you've said, and I'm not invested in any of these companies, by the way, guys. But I've been in crypto for 8 years, and Simon's nailing it so far.
Okay. All right. Well, that brings us to where we are right now. And so since October, a lot of people were supporting people in Palestine that needed help and aid. And people were raising finance. They were doing GoFundMe campaigns. They were doing Buy Me a Coffee campaigns. And there were the only way that you could actually get the money from one of these institutions is it would be very hard to actually get it into Palestine because what the default policy is, and so even if Binance wanted to support Palestine, what happens is the bank that they use, will say you need to restrict all these countries, otherwise we'll remove your banking. So even if the crypto exchange has an ideology of wanting to support and being as exclusive as possible, they actually end up losing access to their banking service. And this is what happened with Binance many, many times. They kept losing a bank, they kept losing more and more banks. And so even if you ideologically want to support something, sometimes you just can't. You have no choice. You've got the regulators, which is a stronghold. You've got the threat of prison. You've got the threat of fines. And you are made to be complicit in any of the activities that happen through your platform. And then you have the threat of the bank removing the service, and then that can take the whole exchange down. So there's lots of we call them choke points. Okay, so that brings us to where we are more recently. So this is when Sulaiman, and I think the original tweet came from Ray Youssef. He's a member of the Bitcoin community that's been around for a long time. He created a decentralized exchange that was mainly focused on the global south. And he's a very controversial character because he tried to make it where people could trade peer to peer, and he didn't want to do KYC, and they took him out. He's an Egyptian Bitcoiner. And they took him out, and he had to step down from his company. And then there was a similar type of coup for that type of service. And he was really focused on the African regions, the global south, like Central and South America, Argentina, Venezuela, many countries that are on the wrong side of the financial system and the American system as well. So he revealed this letter, and this was a letter leaked, and I think Sulaiman Khalisi, everybody shared it. And an English translation was circulated. It's probably on in the nest somewhere, where the Israeli government, let's call it, I'm not sure which division of the government it exactly was, wrote to Binance and said that you must freeze all of the accounts and you must comply with AML CTF laws. Now, I know if you look on OFAC right now, Hamas as an organization is classified as a terrorist organization on the OFAC list. And so, therefore, that just goes to the organization. And so you have a choice at this point, which is you take the easy road, which is you just say, right, anyone from Palestine, we're going to freeze all their assets and we're going to stop providing services because it's too hard for us to conduct due diligence and figure out whether they're actually a member of Hamas or not. You can imagine how hard that task is. Somebody signs up to your platform and then you're trying to figure out whether that individual is a member of Hamas or not. And we know the politics all around that. And, this has been weaponized by Israel all along to justify the genocide of civilians. And so that brings us to where we are now. A lot of people started saying that their assets are frozen. They didn't do self-custody. They didn't withdraw them. And then they found themselves on the wrong side of that, and now they can no longer withdraw them. And so remember where we started out, the Palestinian Monetary Authority has been restricted from converting the cash notes. They've been Israel has been blowing up the banks so that they're no longer functional, and now they're doing asset freezer requests on all of the cryptocurrency exchanges. And this is just another way of executing the genocide through financial censorship, so they can't purchase food and no one can trade, because it was one of the main ways that people were able to get money. So, they were raising finance on GoFundMe, they were converting it to Bitcoin, and they were sending it to individual civilians that weren't on the terrorist list, which is a completely lawful transaction. But
Simon, do you mind if I interrupt?
go for it, yeah.
Does this not prove that Bitcoin is not decentralized? Since one entity like the IDF can just make changes,
No, you're
freeze
confusing.
accounts
Now
and
you're
whatever they
confusing
want.
Bitcoin with Bitcoin at a bank. Bitcoin is decentralized if you hold it on your own wallet. But if you store it at a bank, you swapped your Bitcoin that you own for Bitcoin that Binance owns, and now you're storing it. So that's the difference between custody and self-custody.
Can the IDF not just ban MetaMask being operated in certain countries? Request by other governments to ban MetaMask from operating in their countries?
But you're down a different rabbit hole right now. MetaMask works off a different type of technology, and it's decentralized. And they could request for MetaMask, the company, to stop providing those services, and then it would go through a whole through service. But this is why, whenever you put a company in the middle, you change the relationship, and suddenly you're dealing with banking and confusing Bitcoin with fake Bitcoin and that type of stuff.
Hey, Simon, I have a separate question. The fact that the Israelis are using their contacts here in the U.S. or their own contacts to go ahead and try and grab the Bitcoin assets of the Palestinian people, does that reflect at all on the rumor, at least the rumor to me, that Israel is having financial difficulties, that they're nearing bankruptcy? And is this just a cash grab for them, or something more?
Okay, so it would be highly unusual for Binance to actually transfer those assets to the Israeli government. They'd actually have to get a warrant and an order to seize those funds. What would typically happen for a financial institution is you would freeze those assets and you would wait for a due process until you actually, relinquished, and they'd have to go through a court process or whatever it may be. And so I highly doubt the Israeli government, whichever division it is, would have access to those assets. However, they would be frozen at Binance, where when you log into your account, you'll say, "Hey, I thought I had one Bitcoin. It turns out that I got a fake Bitcoin, and Binance is promising to repay me, but they've now reneged on that agreement. They've frozen the asset, and I have to wait for this whole process to go through. And if it turns out that the court process means that they can get hold of those assets, or whatever the legal process may be, then they would be transferred over to Israel. I'd be highly skeptical that Israel has the money at the moment. So it's an interesting theory, but I don't think they'd be able to get access to that money.
Yeah,
But we all know that it's completely lawless as well. So
right.
they just do things with impunity.
The other thought that occurs to me is this isn't going to impoverish or somehow negate the Palestinian or their allies' response to what Israel's doing, just because they're attacking individual Palestinian accounts. Are the individual Palestinian accounts, or are they part of the Palestinian Authority, or some other larger group that's operating under the umbrella term of the Palestinians?
Yeah, this is, from my perspective, I'm not aware of the Palestinian Authority or any Palestinian government agency having an account with Binance. They may do, but that's not something we know or I've seen any disclosure around. This is an attack on civilians. And so Israel is very deliberately using anti-money laundering laws in order to justify and scare the entire industry into not servicing anyone from Palestine. So that they can first freeze their assets and they can use that as a financial weapon of mass destruction in order to speed up the genocide through restricting their access to financial services. Now, let's look at Binance right now. So you have to ask yourself, are we boycotting Binance or are we not? It is, from my perspective, 100% guaranteed that Israel is requesting the account freezer, and the US government is the decision maker. And we all know that Israel is a 51st state of America. And so therefore, this is the left hand trading with the right hand. Now, there is due process. You know, Binance can decide to fight, but it puts them in a really tricky situation. And 9 times out of 10, if it wasn't a PR disaster, then their best bet would just be to freeze everybody's accounts. So, in answering whether we should be boycotting or not, if this becomes an absolute PR disaster for them that leads to the mass withdrawal of funds because people are scared of more and more freezing of accounts, because what comes next? Well, Lebanese accounts comes next, and then we know that maybe Egyptian accounts next, and Jordanian accounts next, and it goes around the Greater Israel project, because we know the weapon of mass destruction that they're going to be trying to fault. This is another tool in their arsenal, and so they have to make a decision whether they're going to fight the Israel or not. And so I think by boycotting them, it makes that pressure. And in the first 24 hours, I think Sulaiman and many other people shared that if you compared Kraken, Coinbase, Bitfinex, and Binance, when this news broke, it led to the withdrawal of 45,000 Bitcoin, $2 billion in stable coins, and a correction in their token price of about $5 billion. And so
What's their total
boycotting,
holding? What's that a percentage of their total assets? Is that a significant percentage?
I haven't looked for such a long time, but Binance is the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world. They've got something called proof of reserves where you can see the holdings. And I'd guess that it's something along the lines of, I'll look it up, but I can find that out. But it's something along the lines of maybe 100 billion or something like that.
It's currently a $78 billion market cap right now, BNB token.
Perfect. Oh, that's just BNB. That's the market cap. What we're after is the total value of all the assets that they're holding for clients. So there'll be a Binance proof of reserves. If someone looks it up, when I get a little break, I'll look it up for you.
Yeah, because if that amount is 3, 4, 5, or a growing percentage of their total asset base, their reaction to that threat is going to change over time.
Yeah, there's another complex issue.
It's more than 5%.
Okay. So there's another complex issue here. You could bring up someone from Binance, but it's actually against the law to disclose whether you're freezing accounts and what your anti-money laundering policy is. You sign up for a gag order, and one of the rules is that you're not allowed to tip off. And so you won't be able to get a good answer. So the only thing we can do is reverse engineer and use our own logic. And my logic is telling me that the US government is in charge of compliance. Israel is requesting an account freezer. And we all know that they're trying to execute a genocide through covert means. And one of the ways of doing that is to constrict access to finance. So you can pretty much guarantee that they are trying to figure out a way of either fighting or freezing everyone's account. And my guess is they'll end up freezing everyone's account. And they've already done as many as they can now. And many people are reporting that they're doing it. So I think it's important to continue the boycott.
So I just want to bring in Stone. Stone, thank you for joining us. What's your thoughts on, again, anything Simon said, if you want to add to it, if you want to disagree, or any other information you have on this?
No, I think, hello everybody. I appreciate you, Sulaiman, for the invite.
I agree 100% with Simon. So
Yes.
my name is Ray. I originally broke this story when all these Palestinians reached out to me. And I've been advocating for Palestine since day one of the October 7th massacre.
Oh,
So look,
guys,
my mother.
this is Ray Youssef, who I was talking about earlier, that broke the story.
Yeah. So let me just extend what Simon was saying. These people have a backdoor to every single exchange in the world. They get the letter, they obey. But the Binance, they do not have a backdoor. They literally own the whole thing top to bottom. They do not have the option to fight them in any way, but part of their DOJ agreement was that the US compliance team will come in and they will have complete and total full spectrum dominance of everything Binance does. If someone is doubting this and they want some proof, well, consider this. The first thing this compliance team did when they went into power, into Binance, the first day, guess what? They disabled Pan-African trade on Binance peer-to-peer. So now on Binance peer-to-peer, Nigerians can only trade with Nigerians, Kenyans can only trade with Kenyans, and it goes for all 55 states of Africa. Does it make sense? I've been talking about economic apartheid for a long time. The banks in Africa don't work across border, neither does the mobile money. It's the most overregulated region in the world. And what happens when America takes over the leading cryptocurrency exchange? They also enable economic apartheid across all of Africa. This is the first thing that they did. Do you really think that anyone has to make a request to them, especially the Israelis? You know, I agree with Simon 100%, but Israel is not the 51st state of America. America is a colony of Israel. That is the damn truth. They don't need a backdoor. They own the whole thing top to bottom. This is the truth. And they will keep doing this because they have no choice. You know, Richard Teng is just a WEF clown. He can't really do anything. He is absolutely helpless. And I rag on the guy because he's just a bullshitter, but he's honestly just a water boy. He doesn't even know what a Bitcoin address looks like. Binance has no choice. They're kind of like the German government. They also have no choice. They are completely owned and paid for. So we cannot stop the boycott. And this is the most important boycott ever. I respect everyone in this room. I respect the people that have been fighting for Palestine with their blood and guts since day one. All the protesting, all the tweeting. God bless you. You have my maximum respect. But this is the start of the peer-to-peer revolution for real. This is Project Mayhem. This is the thing that counts more than anything else because we are going right at the money. These fucking gangsters thought, okay, we're going to get the biggest binary exchange in the world, crypto exchange in the world, and then we'll have full spectrum dominance. Yeah, they thought so. And they locked a young brother from Gaza of his $2,300. His thread just got 1.5 million views in less than 24 hours. That 2,300 bucks cost them over $7 billion in less than 48 hours. Anyone that doubts the power of the people, never doubt it again. Because right here, we have taken out the first major puncture hole in their armor, and we're only getting started. Literally, all of my friends have been reaching out to me, my closest friends, and the people at Binance have been literally reaching out. Does anyone know Ray? Does anyone know Ray? Please get through hold to him. It was just a few accounts last year, Ray, and we're pro-Palestine. Please calm down. You know what my response was? Go fuck yourself. No mercy. I am not going to stop. I am not going to stop as this is the thing that counts more than anything else. So do not let down. We are talking about the money and only the money matters here. I love you guys. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer. And I'm not going to stop. I promise you that.
So, Ray, first of all, thank you for
I've
joining
been
us.
working out too, so I can defend myself.
Nice one.
Haha.
Nice one, G. First of all, Ray, thank you for joining us. I have sent you a co-host request. Listen, I mean, I put in the title Boycott Binance. My tweet, which is in the nest, I think it got like, what is it, 4 or 5 million views. Binance people did reach out to me. They did put me in a Telegram group to discuss it with them. And to be honest, I read the some of the one of the statements they made, and I and they basically did not answer any of my questions. They made it seem like they were unable to do it, and that just is an additional cause for concern. Because look, I was open. I'm not from the crypto industry. I don't have knowledge of it. But I did ask them some pertinent questions. I said, why? Explain why in 2023 you're frozen 220 out of 1,500 accounts. So of the 1,500 accounts they're claiming they're frozen, 220 are actually within Palestine. The remaining, we don't know where they're from or whatever it may be. And I also asked them, how do they determine illicit activity, other than, for example, Israel or USA claiming it to be the case? Again, they did not provide an answer for that. And that is a cause for concern. So yeah, Ray. I mean, Ray has dropped. I sent him the invite again. But yeah, if there's anyone in the panel who wants to, oh, he's back again.
Suleiman. Suleiman, I want to add to like what Ray said. This really is the ultimate fight because like it's not even just for Palestine, guys, but this is for our freedom and how we spend our money, how we hold our money, and how the future of the currency is going to be. Everyone talks about the CBDC and how they're going to stand up to the government. The time to do that is now, because that's what they're doing. I love the fact that Suleiman talked about the left to the right hand. Simon has nailed down the history on the head, and I feel like Ray nailed down the present, which is like this is the ultimate boycott. We do have to boycott Binance. I believe we have to continue putting pressure on these entities that fear the Zionists but don't fear the people. I'm sick of that. I'm sick of them fearing the Zionists but not fearing the people. I really am. So I love what Ray said and just wanted to second that. Thank you again, Suleiman, for letting me share. And make sure everyone in the space, you guys hit the repost button, hit that purple pill where you see that number 34. Hit that and hit the repost button. Share this space because we need to get the word out. Like someone said, power with the people. So we need to get the word out. We don't have Zio Stream Media sending us fake views. So make sure you guys share that space. And Mike, back to you, Suleiman. Thank you again.
Yeah, straight to Ray. Ray, that was what was your thoughts on that engagement that I had with the Binance people and why they reached out to me?
I'm sorry, I had to quit and rejoin because I wasn't hearing anything. Could you give me a brief synopsis, Suleiman?
Yeah,
Apologies.
of course I can. So basically, you can see in my tweet in the nest, and obviously I am like the biggest pro-Palestinian account on Twitter. The So my a tweet got 45 million views, and as did the various other ones that I've done on this. The Binance people reached out. They were there allegedly to try and answer questions. I asked them a number of questions, but they didn't answer. They gave a statement. I read the statement earlier. And then I asked them, I said, can you explain why in 2023 you've frozen 220, because they claimed they'd frozen 1,500 accounts. So I asked why 220 of those accounts were from Palestine, and actually, what about the rest of the accounts? I also asked them how they determined illicit activity, or was it something as simple as Israel or the USA telling them that it was illicit? They also gave me the impression they were going to come on the space, but obviously they didn't. So, what's your thoughts on that?
It's simple, brother. They're just lying through their teeth. They're repeating their typical whitewash gibberish that they got from their PR department. Not one of them will speak like a real human being and tell you, hey, we're owned 100%. We can't even say anything. We're just trying to keep this ship afloat and keep our jobs, and that's it. I mean, come on. You can't be that stupid, guys. You saw they put our CEO in jail. What kind of deal do you think they made with America? They took him over there, they took him into custody, then they told him, oh, yeah, the old deal doesn't work. You're going to jail, and we're going to take down your whole operation unless you sign this document. And what does the document say? That we own your ass completely, that we're going to install a compliance monitor who has more power than the CEO and the board, and you're going to do what the fuck you're told, and that's it. You're going to go to jail for 4 months, but you're never going to say a fucking word about a token, about crypto ever again. That's why ZZ said, oh, hey guys, no more tokens for me. I'm doing Giggle Academy education. Ha 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 ha. They shut CZ down, who was a good person. CZ's not to blame for this. He's a friend of mine. He had no choice. He would never have told this line. He had to do this just to keep the exchange alive, to keep himself from going to jail. But believe me, they were ready to pull out all the stops. And it's not just America. It is literally Israel that wanted him, just like it's Israel that wants Pavel Durov of Telegram. This goes deeper than any of us can imagine. It is literally the first pillar, finance, and they want it. They want it so bad. Now, they are hurting so bad right now at this boycott because they never saw it coming. They're freaking out, and that's why you see all those IO accounts supporting Binance and attacking anyone, including myself. I'm under massive attack right now because they know what happens here. If Binance goes down, it's going to cause a tipping point. We are going to reach that Overton window here where all these other corporations are going to say, oh, damn, holy shit. We will literally lose all our business if we side with these war pigs. It's not the same game as before, where they have the media to shield them, keep them safe, and uncover their monolithic, ruthless conspiracy. Oh no. Now we're fucked if we side with them. Now people are going to start to think they're going to weigh their decisions. Binance is completely bought and paid for. But if we take this thing down, all the others are going to start to think twice, and then think a third time, and then think a fourth time. This is the victory we need. So do not let off. And no matter what they do, no matter what apology little bitch boy Richard Tang comes out with, we know the truth. They don't have a choice, but we the people do, and we can vote with our money. So let's keep on the straight path.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate as well, it's misguided anger if you're directing it at CZ. This was originally a Chinese company, and we saw what happened to TikTok, right? TikTok was a Chinese company with Chinese shareholders, and they managed to get traction around an alternative algorithm to the one that Zuckerberg was creating. And it went through a slow process of saying the Zios, there was a call leaked where the Zios said, we don't have, we've got a real TikTok problem. This is a generational problem. They're not believing our shit anymore. There's too much pro-Palestinian content. They're finding out about the genocide. And so they infiltrated the US government in order to try and make sure that the shareholders, it became a US company. So Binance has gone through the exact same process where it has now become a US company, despite the fact that they're making you think it's an international company as well. So I just wanted to say this is systemic, and CZ fought a good fight, but it was he got queued out of his company, and it wasn't really a fight that it wasn't a battle that he could win. So it's misguided anger if you're sending it to him.
So I'm just looking at Ray's page, and first thing, agree, boycott Binance. And the second thing is you're seeing the concern that the Zios have, because I'm seeing a lot of Zionist accounts that are posting that they stand with Binance. That's kind of a great indicator about what's going on. So yeah, we need to perpetuate this boycott Binance movement. I think it's important and imperative. And I'm just reading through Ray's page, and that's literally what's happening. So it's important. Like, if there's any movement that we should be now perpetuating right now, it is the boycott Binance movement.
And I want to tell you the bigger game here, which I think Ray is hinting at, but I want to try and articulate it in my own way. Look, we all know, and we've all learned the power structure of the world by being involved in this. We know that at the very top of this power structure is not government, presidents, and Congress and senates. At the very top of this is the money printer of the central bank. That is what I call a proof of weapons network. It prints money in order to fund wars and enable governments to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So they're complicit in this process of they get the drug money, and then they get to send it back to the deep state, and the deep state, Mossad, CIA, that executes all sort of covert operations that are all executed outside of congressional lawfulness. They take out countries like Syria, they take over their oil, they use that oil in order to have a slush fund of money in order to execute covert regime changes, coups, and everything that would happen outside of the legal system. And then they install their puppet governments and presidents and politicians underneath them and make you think that you're in a democracy, so that then they can say to you, oh, the reason we're doing this war is because we're exporting democracy away, because they've got barbarians, and these, so we know that that's happened. So the reason that this is important is because when you deposit your Bitcoin at an exchange, you are relinquishing control of the very force that is the resistance movement against the central bank. The only way to defund the central bank and get rid of the proof of weapons network is for everybody to own their own money. And Bitcoin is a resistance against it because they can't print it and nobody can print it. It is geographically diversified around the world. They're mining a bunch of it in China. They're mining a bunch of it in America. They're mining a bunch of it across Africa. They're mining a bunch of it in Iran. They're mining a bunch of it in Russia. And no government can control that. And the security behind it is so big. So this is the real resistance movement against central banking. But there's a PSYOP, and that PSYOP is leave it at an exchange. The resistance movement is you learning how to control your own money and defunding the war machine by people saving in Bitcoin, which allows you to own your own Bitcoin without a bank. It allows you to spend your own Bitcoin without government permission, and it allows you to protect yourself from inflation without the central bank. It defunds the war machine, and it takes the proof of weapons network and replaces it with a peaceful proof of work network. That is their biggest fear, and that's why they want you all to leave your Bitcoin in exchange. And remember what has happened. Everybody in Palestine right now that held their Bitcoin or their crypto at Binance now just has a promise to repay. And if they provide all of the different documents required, then and only then maybe they have access to their money, or it will be frozen. The time to do this is not when your country is being taken down by Israel. The time to do this is way before your country is being taken down by Israel. Everybody needs to prepare for the scenario of how do you own your own money without a bank? How do you transact without the permission of government? And how do you protect yourself from the debt slavery of the central banks that are controlling all of our governments and all the power and the deep states around the world? Thank you.
That was beautiful, brother. I love you, man. Love you, bro.
Guys, do me a favor, retweet, reshare the space, let everybody know we are live. Also, there's a tweet in the nest, and it is boycott Binance. So retweet, reshare the space, use the hashtag, hashtag boycott Binance, put it in the comments, quote tweet the tweet. Let everybody know we're boycotting Binance. Let the Zios know. It's over for them, just like we've dominated them in all aspects of exposing their lies, the hashtags we did. This is another one that needs to be done because, from what I understand, again, I've never pretended to be a crypto expert, but crypto is always meant to be something that is analogous to free speech, to decentralization, and therefore, if Zios have taken control of it, then we no longer have autonomy of that. I mean, Simon or actually one of the panelists do jump in. Is that right? Or if not, give us your slant on it. Go ahead, Plague, jump in.
Yeah, let me add to that. The only reason we know about the atrocities of the Iraqi war is because of WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. Julian Assange was taken out by Operation Choke Point the exact same way. They tried to connect him with rape. They tried to tarnish his reputation. They tried to bribe him. They tried to take him down. They tried to take away his bank account. They wanted to make sure that WikiLeaks could never raise finance. And thanks to Bitcoin, he was able to raise finance, and the value funded WikiLeaks through the whole process of exposing all of the atrocities that were happening as a result of the Federal Reserve printing the money that led to the Iraqi war, that led to the increase in share price of the military industrial complex that was being laundered through the colleges in America, that led to the death of 1 million Iraqis and destabilize the region so that an Arab League could never get together and have their resources pulled together and become a competing force against America. So you just got to, I've lost my thoughts, but whatever I was saying there.
I'd just like to
And by the way, guys, what Simon's saying is he's saying Bitcoin, the currency, like in wallets that aren't connected to exchanges, by the way. Like, I don't think they were using any exchanges. So that's the key to crypto is don't use exchanges. Use private ledgers, like the Ledger X or the Trezor. Bitcoin, I know Bitcoin, Simon can speak on this, has like specific ones. But you could use these kind of hardware wallets to really protect yourself from these scammer exchanges or these governments even controlling your money. So that's how WikiLeaks, I'm pretty sure, like did it. They did not use like
Oh,
Binance
that's
or
what I was saying. Yeah, you reminded me, Mofit. Yeah. So WikiLeaks was saved by Bitcoin. And even, I know Doc's here on the stage, and he's a MAGA guy. Look what happened when they tried to take out Trump. They took out his bank accounts. They took out the bank accounts of everybody that was on the campaign. And Operation Choke Point is a real thing. And this has been weaponized in so many areas. If you try and send money to any of these areas that are completely legal, I'm not talking about the activity. You have to be very careful. And I want to put that disclaimer in again. Be very careful. Look what happened to Sarah Wilkinson today. She's a victim of support, standing up against the genocide, and then they try to connect you to terrorism. So when you're not allowed to fund any of these organizations, you have to be careful. You have to be really sensible about these things. But when you're engaging in completely legal activities like supporting somebody that needs to gain access to this hyperinflated food from this fake economy due to the the fake economy that they've created within Gaza by restricting all of the supplies, cutting off all of their finances, and making it where they're suffering from famine and starvation, and that creates it's perfectly fine to send money to those people, but you've got to be careful because they weaponize that. And this is one of the things, so that's what happened to Trump. It happened to many other things. And so, this choke point of the financial system, and us being able to control our own money and do it in a completely lawful way, is the way that we fight this, because they will try and tarnish you. They will try and connect you to activities, and they will try and take you down. And that's the resistance that we all need to make sure that we're being smart with here. So I just want to reiterate, nothing on this call should be seen as any type of support for any organization that a certain government may have classified as a terrorist. We're here for the civilians. We're here to help people that are innocent victims of a political process. And we're trying to bring more power to the people within the complete confines of the laws that are set for us to play this game.
Simon, maybe it's just something I inferred from your comments, but are you suggesting that they're going after the Binance accounts of persons outside of Palestine that have donated to Palestinians in Gaza?
They will try to make those connections. And so if they can try and prove that by you funding a family, if they could make the connection that was Hamas, then they're trying to fear you into making sure that you don't do that, so that they can speed up the starvation and execute the genocide. So you've got to be ultra careful with these things.
Yes. So are they conflating a Palestinian with a terrorist simply because they're in Gaza? Because as I'm sure you're all aware, that this Hamas tag, this terrorist tag, gets broadly brushed against anyone, even those of us like who might be in this room who might have supported Palestinians. But is that what the notice to Binance was in terms of the seizure? Was it?
They didn't. What they wanted to say is freeze every account, because how the hell are you going to know the difference between a Palestinian and a member of Hamas, and whether you're inadvertently funding the proceeds of terrorism? That's what they're trying to do. And so they fear the financial institution into just saying, well, the easiest way to deal with this, even though Palestine has not got a blanket country ban like North Korea, but they just say, for us, the risk is too high. Our bank account might say that you're taking too much risk, and therefore our only choice is just to exclude them financially. This is how you execute a genocide. You cut off their financial services, you cut off their ability to access water, access clean food, you allow famine to be executed, and you cut off the rails of their ability to transact by making all the financial institutions personally responsible for any of the activities that are completely outside of their control. So they blanket ban you.
Yeah, Binance, even though it's holding crypto assets, it is now being treated just like any bank in the United States, where they'll get a Wales notice suggesting that an account should be frozen for X, Y, or Z reasons to be proven at a later date, potentially after some due process. But yet, in terms of MAGA people that has happened to, Dustin and Jennifer of American Mission, who worked with Steve Bannon to build a section of the wall, took donations and built a section of the wall, I think in New Mexico. They've been attacked for years. Debanked, banks, their bank accounts closed. FBI, dropped in on the doorstep, handcuffed in front of their kids, the whole bit, because they were pro-Trump, who actually had a permitted operation on the Capitol steps the day in 2021 on whatever that date was. So yeah,
Yeah.
someone asked a question of you early on. Does this prove that crypto isn't a safe and secure asset? What it proves to me is that when you leave it in the hands of a third party for your convenience sake to access your crypto on a daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly basis, that you don't understand self custody and a self wallet like a MetaMask, that you're in the same position, even though you have crypto assets, not fiat currency, of having to be collected by the powers that be.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, that is the lesson, and that is never more important than when you live in a country that's the victim of some kind of political process, like the Palestinians.
I just want to welcome Miguel. Miguel, thanks for coming on the stage. He's a good friend of mine. How you doing?
Doing good, brother. I'm just sad to hear of all the things, all the people suffering over
Yeah,
not being able to. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we're just talking specifically about Binance and the fact that Binance has frozen accounts in Palestine of 220 individuals and possibly even more in terms of outside of Palestine since October. The main conversations about that.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, no one should really be having a majority of their money on just any crypto platform at all. I mean, if we have, I mean, obviously, if someone's very brand new, I mean, this is going to be a really harsh lesson, but more and more of this behavior is going to happen on centralized exchanges. There's a lot of political pressure from a lot of governments. I mean, let's just say even if it wasn't directly a U.S. order, or maybe it was someone from the Eurozone, or it could have been any government, Russian, putting pressure on Binance. Um, it's just a sad state of affairs. This is why when we always educate our students in self custody and taking your coins off exchanges. That's why there's actually a kind of a crypto, I would call it, holiday of like removing your coins off exchanges every January. Um, it's just, I mean, like crypto works. It's just you can't you can't not leave it on a third party. Thanks for having me on, Sulaiman.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Ray dropped. He had his hand up, and he was co-hosting, but I'll get him back up. In the meantime, Stone, jump in. You got your hand up.
Hello, everybody. Yes, thank you, Sulaiman, for the invite. I'm kind of like you about crypto. I'm kind of very new into crypto, but I use my space. I'm from a crypto company. And I use my space to talk about Palestine, and I totally respect you guys for that, for everything you say, for the knowledge you brought to Simon, to Ray Youssef. So I like what Yusuf said about the mafia. So I think it's the best way to describe what Israel is doing. And I got like people menacing me to kill me because I talk about Zionism, against Zionism. And I just want to give you guys some respect. I won't talk too much about crypto because I don't really know, brother. But I respect you for the invite. And let's stand for Palestine. Simon described it perfectly. Like they just try to take every ways for the Palestinian to get money, to get food, to get water. Like that's a genocide. And I just don't understand what the world is waiting for. We have Muslims dying, we have Christians, we have church being bombed, we have mosque. Like what are we waiting for? And I respect everybody who stand for that. We got demonetized from Twitter. We still doing it. We got people telling that they want to kill us. We waiting for it, and I will never stop talking about it. So big respect to all of you, brothers, and thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Ray, you had your hand up. Go ahead, jump in. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the question someone asked. You're asking, hey, is it possible now that they will lock and seize the accounts of people outside Palestine that are sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. Yes, yes, and fuck yes. We are dealing with gangsters here of the lowest order who will bomb and rape babies and brag about it. There is nothing off limits to these people. We are all Palestinians now, all of us, every single one of us. And like Simon was saying, the greater Israel project, Yaretz Israel, is coming. It is not just Palestine. It will be Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. It's already started. It's not just Palestinians that have been reaching out to me. It's people from all those countries, and it will expand to the entire global South. Anyone that resists them, including freedom fighters in the West. Richard Medhurst was arrested on a plane and put through basically torture and humiliation. Sarah Wilkinson has just been arrested. They've got 96-year-old women who are asking questions about Holocaust, who are in jail right now. There is nothing that is off limits to these people. Simon made too many good points for me to get into, but let me reiterate one. We're all talking and scared about CDBCs. CDBCs are powerful because they will allow them to have a full, transparent circulatory system in real time of the financial system. And more importantly, it allows them to easily control the amount of volume in circulation. Okay, that's scary, but guess what? If you control an exchange like Binance, you basically have that power on a mass scale with 200 million people. This is worse than CDBCs, and it is already here. The more they control the on-ramps and off-ramps, that is literally control of the volume of money in circulation. And Binance was especially enticing for them because of all of its off-ramps and on-ramps to the global South. CZ's a friend of mine. He tried to buy my old exchange, which first onboarded Africa and the global South. It was a big exchange in Africa. I wouldn't sell to him because I didn't like his centralized approach. So he copied it, and then he basically had a network state. This is the thing they fear the most. A network state, a distributed peer-to-peer nation where people can simply transact and do commerce without any limits. That's what Binance became. Facebook tried to do it with Libra, but they were shot down by the regulator because they don't want people in the global South to be able to trade freely. And when CZ did it, he became public enemy number one. Let's all keep that in the back of our heads. Simon made too many good points to reiterate, but again, there is no level that these people will not stoop to. So let's all start practicing self-custody. If you're going to use an exchange, only keep on there what you're trading. Set up self-custody and keep all your money there. Educate yourself. Do not be lazy. This is literally a matter of life and death now. And I will reiterate again. This boycott is the true start of this revolution. So stay strong and be steadfast.
100%. Boycott Binance. The tweet is in the nest. Check it out. Retweet it, reshare it, quote tweet it, do your own tweets about it. We are boycotting Binance. Plague, jump in with your thoughts. I know you've had your hand up for a while. I appreciate you waiting.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you for having me. Simon made a bunch of great points, too many to even comment on. They're all gone through so quickly, and we've gone through so many different topics. But what I wanted to talk about, two things. One, if you're new to crypto and you don't understand it, I understand it's a lot to take in. The easiest way to think of it is digital money, and there's three different types of ways that you can store that. I personally call them a hot wallet, a warm wallet, and a cold wallet. The hot wallet is the one that you can, it's basically the on-ramp. It's the crypto.coms, the Binances, the Kraken. Essentially, you hold their crypto on their exchange. It's essentially they're custodying that digital money for you. They hold it, which also means that they can cut you off from it. Then there's what I call a warm wallet, which are your DeFi wallets. Generally, what we call a DeFi wallet. What it is something you put on your laptop or on your phone, and what it means is that you have the digital money with you at all times. You have to be very careful with it because you can answer links and stuff, or you can end up losing your money. So it's really important to be careful what you're clicking on when you're on your computer. So that's a warm wallet, or essentially a DeFi wallet. MetaMask is another great example of that as well. And then there's a cold wallet, which is somebody had brought that up. I think it was Miguel, I believe. He said something along the lines of the cold storage is the Trezors.
Yep.
And now all the names.
Ledger.
Yes. Those are cold storage.
Yeah.
So when you load your digital money onto those things, those are the things that you will generally keep in a safe and keep in someplace safe, essentially where you're not going to be regularly hooking it up to an internet, right? Or the internet, I should say. So the three different types of wallets, but the last two, essentially, they basically, that way you know you're in control of your money. The DeFi wallets and the Trezors and the ledgers are the way to make sure that that money is in your possession, in your control. Now, one quick point that I should point out, though, if you're going to buy a ledger or a Trezor and you haven't before, always buy directly from the websites. Never buy from a secondary source such as eBay or Amazon. Always buy directly from the source that makes these things, because believe it or not, people can actually buy these. They can basically set them up with you not knowing it, glue up the package, send it to Amazon, send it to eBay, and then you actually end up putting your digital money on something that somebody could potentially control. So always keep that in mind. The second thing that I wanted to get into actually was the fact that you know, the whole CZ thing is actually quite a mess of things, right? Because CZ was the one that took down FTX. I think that the United States was setting up FTX to be the big player against Binance. And when CZ sold the FTT token, I believe what it was, essentially, I think CZ knew entirely what was going on with FTX the entire time, and he essentially caused that crash. And I believe that's why he got charged and went to jail, because most of the stuff that he did. I mean,
You're absolutely correct.
yeah,
You're absolutely correct. That's
it
exactly what happened.
it's
Absolutely 100%. That's what happened.
yeah, it's petty stuff. Like like CZ never should have went to jail for that stuff to begin with. And essentially, what they used that to do was to gain control. Because if they hadn't done it through Binance, they would have done it through FTX. So they still got their way in the end. And this is why we're in the position that we're in. And I don't blame CZ for it, because I believe he held out as long as he could. But they were going to get him one way or another, right? So I think going forward, you need to be really careful. Whenever I purchase anything from a centralized exchange, I immediately move it off there and into DeFi wallets, and I don't hold anything in a central exchange that essentially can be confiscated or taken control of by the government. I'm actually a Canadian trucker, and for those of you that don't know, when we had the Freedom Convoy a couple years ago, essentially they cut off our bank accounts. Okay. And then when they realized they couldn't stop the flow of money, like how are they still paying for stuff? They started realizing, oh, these guys are using crypto, right? So they started freezing crypto assets on top of that. So you got to be really careful in the end on how you're doing all this stuff, right? So, like, crypto is freedom, but you've got to recognize, what goes into it, what goes out, and who's watching. Believe it or not, a lot of people think that crypto is actually an easy way to move money around and nobody knows, and it's the exact opposite. If you have any skill at all with blockchain and looking up on-chain activity, it's actually pretty easy to make a circle of wallets and trace it from the central exchange into the DeFi stuff. So, if you're thinking that it's an easy way to move money, it's exactly the opposite. I'm almost of the opinion that the CIA developed Bitcoin for exactly that. It seems like freedom, but really it isn't, because they can track every transaction back to the wallet that it came from in the very end. So whenever you hear these stories too about Hamas using or even the Palestinian Authority using crypto for bad things, it can all be tracked exactly what they're buying. So, I mean, if there's proof that they use crypto to buy something, it's on chain, and they really can't prove it. So what they do is they just shut the whole thing down, right? And say, oh, they're using it for criminal activity. But the truth is that every single transaction's there for the entire world to see. So they just broadly categorize it and shut it all down, which is, once crypto kind of goes onto a larger adoption, I think across the countries, across the world, we're going to see, people are going to be able to prove themselves that, no, I didn't actually do this, because here's the transactions right here. And right now we're essentially left to the big banks to, either agree with us or disagree with us. You know what I mean? And I think the world is coming to, a big revolution on this kind of stuff, right? We want our financial freedom.
And we a long time ago, this was kind of the dream that we had back in like 2017, 2016, is that we were going to add fungibility to crypto assets. But because all the money that was coming in from Wall Street and coming over from China, that pretty much stopped in its tracks. So there is supposed to be, like, if I give like Sulaiman $100, right, it's basically just something between me and him, right? Or I paid an employee, he shouldn't be able to see how much money I have in my account, right? So this is something that was supposed to be added to crypto quite a long time ago. We do have like Zcash and Monero, but these things are not perfect as well, but fungibility and privacy were supposed to be added to these crypto assets, and that's just been kind of stopped, especially with the arrest of the Tornado.cash, of just for creating the code on it. He wasn't doing anything malicious, but still, because he created it, they fucked him up, which is not fair, right? Because code is speech in a way, right? And it wasn't like he was actually decided to make illicit transaction or anything. He just created the platform and that's it. It's kind of like getting arrested for creating LimeWire and then walking away as people like uploaded things to download into it. But it's just a crazy world. I just want to say one thing about the cold storage devices. I'm much more in favor of Trezor over Ledger. They're both safe, but Ledger being in the Eurozone, especially being based out of France, they have put political pressure on them for KYC and all kinds of things in order to track these accounts even better. The French government has put much more restrictions on Ledger, and from my personal experience, the fancier and the more things you can do within the Ledger system, the more chance that you could actually possibly get hacked or and tracked, where a Trezor is just much more, it's a little more decentralized and it's not as fancy, and that's what you want. You want a bank. You basically want a boring bank vault to put your crypto in. You don't want to be able to exchange and do all these things on Ledger and everything like that. But I mean, that's a personal thing. Ledger is still pretty safe, but just wanted to give you guys a little bit of FYI on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something.
Yeah, I'll add a few comments on.
I just wanted to add something else real quick, if you don't mind. They love blockchain for us, and I'll tell you why, right? Because they can track every single one of our transactions, and they're training the AI to do that now. That's why they hired so many of these IRS people. I personally believe it's to dig into all this financial stuff and the crypto, and to use the AI to track it, create what we call bubble maps. And what bubble maps are is just something that we can associate. We can group a bunch of wallets together and say, okay, these wallets all belong to this one person. And the reason why it hasn't been adopted yet by the government, it makes them accountable for 100% of the money that they're spending. And they don't want to do that. This year alone, the accounting firms could only account for 50% of all the assets that the Pentagon owns, 50% unaccounted for. If we had blockchain, we would know where every single penny of that was going. And that's exactly why they haven't adopted yet, because they haven't found, like, I'm sure they're searching for a way to privatize it so they can have their own blockchain that we can't access.
Yeah, just wanted to add a little few comments on there. So firstly, self-custody. It means that once you have your hardware wallet, and just, I don't want to go too deep into it, but just conceptually understand that even a hardware wallet can actually become just a brain wallet, where, obviously that's subject to you having dementia and various other things. So that's a risk in itself. But you can actually travel across any truck, any border, any zone, and if you can remember certain phrases, or you can have the hardware device that is in your pocket, then your wealth comes with you wherever you go. I also do like Trezor. The founder of that, Isabella, she was, I spoke at the very first Bitcoin conference in the world in Prague in 2011. And it was a brainchild of that conference as well. And it survived the test of time so far. And the other thing, just sticking within the theme of what we're discussing as well, is in certain countries, obviously, what the government did is they classified Bitcoin and crypto as property. And the reason that they did that is because if the price of it goes up and you convert it back to fiat currency, they can charge you a capital gains tax. And by charging you a capital gains tax, it was their way of making it where you don't really want to spend it, or it can't be used as a currency, because then you have to figure out the whole tax. And so, what happened in El Salvador, and you'll see my pinned tweet, a Palestinian president created his own political party and became the most popular president of El Salvador. And he read the book of a Palestinian economist called Saifedean Ammous, who wrote the book, The Bitcoin Standard. And that was the same book that Thomas Messi, who created the End the Fed bill in America right now, read in order to put together his thoughts around how to do it in America. But the Palestinian president, after reading the book of the Palestinian economist, made Bitcoin legal tender, and we put together a plan when I went to El Salvador of how he could buy one Bitcoin every day and build a strategic reserve asset so that he could free himself from the International Monetary Fund, of which that country, through civil wars and destruction, had to borrow $26 billion, so that they could put together a plan to free themselves of the International Monetary Fund and the Federal Reserve. And that very same model is ready for when Palestine goes through the rebuild, and that rebuild can be done in two ways. They can either sign up to the Gulf states and the very same people that destroyed their country, and they can build another central bank and fiat proof of weapons network that takes them to the same kind of oppression and riba-based finance, or they could leave Israel, which is the sole and major beneficiary. Israel is a creation of fiat currency. Israel is a creation of the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve. And they can leave that system, which God told us with riba, that it always self-destructs because it is a debt-based Ponzi scheme. Israel can build their economy on the Fed, on the Bank of England, which has got America into $35 trillion of debt right now. But right next to it, if Palestine, however this happens or whatever happens next, we already have the model of a Palestinian president from the model of a Palestinian economist to make Bitcoin legal tender, which is fully Islamic finance compliant currency, from the Bible, from the Quran. They're completely compliant because it's got no riba built into the system. They could completely rebuild and become completely independent of any central bank, of any oppression. And I can't wait for that project to happen. And so when the time comes right, when we have freed Palestine, we need to make sure that the job and the rebuild is actually done for the people, by the people, using the very same currency and the very same model that allows Palestine to never be subject to the oppression of the Proof of Weapons Network, the International Monetary Fund, the Federal Reserve, and the proxies across the Gulf states that have bowed down to the military industrial complex and sold their souls in order to maintain their kingdoms.
Thanks for that, Simon. Let's go to Joe. Joe, jump in.
Sullivan, you got to be kidding me. How do you follow that up? What am I supposed to say after that? He basically said anything any of us would
Just
say
say
up
free
here.
Palestine or boycott Binance.
No, look, I honestly think that whether you're pro-Palestinian, look, you guys know I lean left, right? I don't believe all the vaccine stuff and things like that, or that FBI made the virus. I just don't believe it, right? But I don't think people should be
It was
sanctioned for.
DARPA, not the FBI. But go ahead.
So
It
look,
was
it's
IOs.
everyone is at risk here. Whether you were a trucker in Canada, whether you were a citizen of Crete that had their bank accounts confiscated, or in Lebanon before, or in Argentina, or in the UK, like happened during World War II, I think it was, or even in the US when they came and took your gold. It doesn't matter what side you're on. right? I honestly felt safe, uh, 4 or 5 years ago that I'm on the right side. I believe part of the news. Um, I don't make crazy conspiracy statements unless I can actually prove them out to the nth degree. So they'll never come for me. But now you see me standing up against a genocide, which, I really think that's Binance's next step, um, is anyone who's pro-Palestinian. So regardless if you're a Zio, regardless if you're pro-Palestinian, regardless of who you are, protect your money, because you don't know what comment you're going to make tomorrow. And since when do we live in a world that everyone's oppressed, where they can just come and take your money at any time simply by requesting it, which is what happened here, right? So regardless of who's listening, what side you're on, just remember, today you might feel like you're on the right side or on the side of the world power or the global power. You might not be on that side tomorrow. So to make the safe choice and get it off of there. That's really all I have to say. I think Simon said everything else beautifully.
Right, guys. Want to open some space. Appreciate all the crypto guys who came onto the space and have provided us with detailed information and knowledge. Watch out for Ray. He's the one who exposed the fact that Palestinian accounts are being banned on Binance. Binance have confirmed it. They confirmed it to me directly, but no excuse was given. So watch his page, check it out. We'll continue to see or watch for updates about what's happening with this. Hashtag boycott Binance. Make sure you're tweeting it and you're all about it. Appreciate Simon for giving us his wealth and depth of knowledge. Always a G, being in it and on it from day zero on this. Thanks to Joa, Doc, Morfit, Stone, Ahmed, Plague, all for coming, and my friend Miguel. Appreciate all of you guys coming. Appreciate you guys joining in. Appreciate you guys listening. And for sure, we shall see you next time.